Looking for clarity and confidence when it comes to decision making for your business? You've come to the right place. You're now listening to the Atomic Business Coaching Podcast.
All right, so we're here again for another episode of the Atomic Business Coaching Podcast. But like Adam and I have been doing for the last couple of weeks, we've returned to our roots, just having a conversation. So, one of the things I wanted to talk about, Adam, that really has come up a lot lately is people are living in this lack mindset, and they're afraid of abundance, or they just keep listening to all this negativity out there. And I am so tired of talking about why you need to be in an abundant mindset versus a lack mindset. And, sometimes I even find myself, like I can feel my shift has taken place from a lack mindset. I know that a lot of people out there that are business owners and side hustlers, one of the things is the upbringing that we're brought up with sometimes is in lack versus being abundant. And, if you came from a household where money was always the topic, do we have enough money to do this? It really created a different level of awareness. And, we've all struggled with it, but now as business owners, I find that's when it really impacts people the most, is when they've started their own thing. So how do you you've always you always have this huge abundant mindset. You never come from a place of lack. What was the secret to that for you?
I think when I was young, like I realized, when I was young, my parents got divorced when I was 7 years old, and I kind of had to become the man of the house, and my mom had to go get a job, which she didn't. I mean, she had a job, but not a real job. My dad was he owned a business, and she couldn't be around all the time. She had to go to work, and we got a babysitter, and then the babysitter ended up living with us. And I really had to become like the father to my two younger brothers. And I realized, like, we didn't have a lot. My dad lost his business at that time. My mom was working for, I would guess, minimum wage. It was not a lot of money. We didn't go on vacations. We didn't have nice cars. We didn't have nice anything. We went from extreme wealth to extreme poverty in the course of like 3-4 months. It was wild. My brothers, who were 3 and 4 at the time, didn't understand it. But me at 7, it was a drastic hit. And I understood that it was like my dad he didn't cry about it. He was like, this is just what it is, and I'm going to go after it. But at home, I was only saw him on the weekends. At home, like, I was with my family every single day and saw the differences. And I realized, like, we still had stuff. We still had each other. We still had the ability to have fun and go outside and play. We still had bicycles we could ride. We were still eating food. It wasn't like that kind of poverty where we were like had to go on food stamps or anything. Right. But there was this responsibility that came to me of like, I have to make sure these things happen. And it really wasn't an option for me to be like pitiful. It's pitiful. Is that a word? I don't even know. But I couldn't have pity for myself.
Right.
So, and I had to be strong for my two younger brothers, because they were like, I don't know, who's this strange person in our house that's watching us? Where's dad? Like, how come we're not going to grandma's house regularly? Like, what's going on? So I had a responsibility, which I think when you're in business, you have a responsibility to your clients. You have a responsibility to your family. You have a responsibility to yourself. And you have a responsibility to your staff. So I think it originally stemmed, and I never thought about this until right now, I think it stemmed from a responsibility that I got to do whatever it takes. And there's enough out there in the world that we can make the best of every single situation.
Yeah. I mean, it's the same thing. Like, I didn't grow up on food stamps. I didn't grow up in poverty. My father was a Catholic high school teacher for the majority of my childhood. My mother worked as an aide in a school. I mean, we didn't have a lot of money. My father's working 3 jobs at one point. And I saw how much we still had, right? To your point, like, you still had a bike, you still had money. And that's really where, the practice of gratitude, and where I think a lot of my shift has taken place over the last few years, is just in that practice of gratitude every day, and recognizing everything that we have, right? We take for granted a lot of times the things that we don't have, that we do have, and we always want more, or we always feel like something is lacking. And when you think like that, you put yourself into this negative world. And when you are constantly putting out good energy and being positive about the things that you have, you kind of shift into that abundant mindset. right? But with the economy and all of the fear that the media propagates and all of this stuff around what's going on in the world, it's really hard for people to have an abundant mindset, right? It seems like every day we hear the sky is falling, but that's not really true necessarily. And how do you sift through like all of the noise that and all of this negative energy that's out there around, because it comes down to money a lot of times for people, this lack an abundant mindset? And how do we get beyond that? How do you get rid of some of that noise that's taking away from us being grateful for what we have?
Well, I think I'm going to go back to that situation just because I'm in it right now. My brain is in it. And I might have explained it because you asked me, how do I have that? So it was from the responsibility in that situation, but then how did I maintain it? And how did I keep it all these years? I'm 45 years old. How did I keep it? Whatever that is, 38 years or 7 years, whatever it is. How did I keep that? Right. What I realized in that time frame is that when I did something about it, I controlled it. Right. When I went and worked towards something, it was fine. Like if my brothers, we couldn't go do some crazy, amazing thing that we used to. I remember we used to go across the street to the sand lot. It was like we lived in a new development, and across the street there was just, between these two houses was an empty lot, and it was mainly like sand and trees. And I would bring them over there and we would just like play in the dirt and climb the trees. I told my kids there's a buried treasure, a time capsule me and my brothers put there when we were moving. But it was like I could still work to make them have fun. Right. And when I did that, we ended up having usually more fun than when we had this great, amazing, expensive experience, because it was the three of us hanging out, doing something fun, getting dirty, playing with our hands, rough and tumble, getting beat up and cut up and whatever. And it was like we created a more valuable experience because we put the effort in, we put the work in. And I think that's what I've always realized. So anytime something bad happens now, or a point when most people would say, oh my gosh, woe is me and lack and this, I look at that as an opportunity of like, I know if I put some effort in here, something better can probably come out of this. And it's proven time after time. Of every time I've struggled, when I really like bit down and said, all right, I'm going to do something about it. Even if I had no clue what I was going to do, but I just did something, positivity and abundance came back to me through it. And so I just know. And I think everybody listening, when you've been in a really shitty situation, when you sat in that wallow of it, like it didn't feel good. It didn't taste good. It didn't, do anything for you. But then eventually you did something about it. You did something.
Right.
You called somebody for help, or you got up off the couch, or you made a phone call, or you went and did a thing that is going to be stressful and painful. And those things that you did produce some kind of positivity, produce something that you gained back in return. And I've just done this time after time after time. So when that noise that you were asking, how do you filter through that noise? I don't hear it. Like I see opportunity. And every time this happens, there's no noise. There's a signal like, okay, there's a problem. That means there's an opportunity. And I don't know who said it. Benjamin Franklin, probably Winston Churchill, whoever, Marcus Aurelius. It's got to be one of those three.
It's one of those great Socrates.
They said that every problem is an opportunity in disguise.
Right.
And no one told me that when I was a kid, but that's just what happened. Is like every problem I looked at as a kid and now as a businessman, every problem is typically an opportunity. We just had a big problem with one of our long-term clients, and it turned into a humongous opportunity.
Yep.
That opportunity wouldn't have come unless that problem arose. So like there's always so much good that comes out of lack. Okay. So I think it's just the way that I listen to it and I hear it and I see it. And I think everybody has this ability. I'm not special, Tom.
Yeah.
It's just a perspective.
No, I think you're bringing up some really important points, right? Stop seeing the world through the lens of these are obstacles and see them as opportunities, right? I mean, that's really the foundation of a lot of growth mindsets, is to see the world through, everything is an opportunity. And once we start to embrace that everything is an opportunity, good or bad, we've got to see what the opportunity is there. But you also said something that just like I loved, like you created such value in the experiences for you and your brothers around the simplest of things. And I think that's one thing when we live in a lack mindset, we don't always do. We don't always see that the simple is beautiful. The simple is extremely valuable. Like I love my wife loves little things. She loves the little experiences. Her favorite place to go is Cracker Barrel, right? So whenever we're on a road trip, there's none on Long Island. For those of you that maybe are driving around the country, what? No, what? Is there one coming to Long Island?
What I was going to say is that's a perfect assessment of this is why does she love Cracker Barrel? Because it's in lack.
Right. Right, exactly. Because we don't have it here on Long Island, and she just loves it. So every place we go, whenever we're traveling for baseball or on the road, we try to find a Cracker Barrel so she can just have the experience, because it's such an awesome experience because we don't have it here. But it's such an abundant experience because she enjoys it so much. She creates a bigger experience for for the four of us to really enjoy it. And now my kids, even like anytime they see a Cracker Barrel, they're like, oh man, mom, like my son and I will go when we're traveling together, and we'll go to Cracker Barrel and we'll take a selfie of us at the Cracker Barrel, and she's just like, you guys suck. But it's because it's so important for her to experience that. But it's true, something really good for us comes out of not having that exposure here. But we take the opportunity every single time we have the opportunity to eat at a Cracker Barrel. And we've done that. Sometimes we'll eat 2 and 3 times on one road trip at a Cracker Barrel just because we love it that much. But it's those little things, and it's, we tried, if we made and celebrate, and this is like celebrating the small successes too, and the small wins, is when you have those opportunities and you see them truly as an opportunity, and then it goes really well, when you celebrate that and really hone that as this beautiful memory or this wonderful feeling, it creates a whole momentum towards abundance. And that's what we really have to do. And, like I love what you do with your daughter on Fridays. I think it is one of the most beautiful things that you can do to live abundantly, right? It's the simplest thing that you do. So tell everybody what you do on Fridays, because it's awesome.
Yeah, every Friday during the school year only, my daughter and I pick her up at about 2:45, and at 3:00 we have Fun Friday. And Fun Friday is an opportunity for her and I to go do a very simple experience that's fun that we wouldn't normally do. And it started with Dunkin' Donuts, and we'd go to Dunkin' Donuts, and she would pick out the 12 donuts, and we'd come home, and we could have donuts on Friday and Saturday. Then they were going in the garbage. And it was like, okay, it's a limited thing. We get to do it this one time. We looked forward to it all week, and it's evolved into now she has a bucket that she picks out of, and she puts all these fun things in there, and we do a different experience. And but she looks forward to it. I look forward to it. It's like, I'll think about it, and it's like, oh, okay. It doesn't cost me a lot of money. It doesn't cost us a lot of time, but it's this amazing opportunity that we have that's all stemmed from a problem of, she was like, hey, you're doing all this stuff with her brother Tyler. How come we don't have this time for us? And I was very busy. So we're like, all right, here's a problem. Let's figure out an opportunity. And I would just take her, and I knew it was going to be 10 minutes to go to Dunkin' Donuts and pick them. And she was so happy when we started this, she was 6. Now she's 8. At 6 years old, 10 minutes and going to Dunkin' Donuts was like a whole day for her.
Right.
And even now we'll go to like Starbucks, or she likes this boba tea place, and we'll sit down and we'll spend 20 minutes at the place. We always take a selfie before, and I post it on my personal Instagram, and she gets to pick the filter and the thing. So even before we get our Fun Friday, we're having a different kind of fun. And if she's in a bad mood, like I'll try to take the selfie and she'll move, and I'll make a silly face, and I get her to laugh. And so it keeps building upon itself.
Right.
Just because we're like, all right, she understands. Neither of us, she's at a softball game right now that I can't be at. It's like she understands, like, we have limited time, but let's make the most of this. Let's figure out that there can be abundance in these tiny moments that we have.
Yeah, I think that's the key, right? Is that all of these little moments, they swell up into this incredible abundance. And so many people look at abundance just as the wealth, the money and the resources that you have, but it's so much more. It's also creating that emotional abundance, right? And helping us to see and feel better about situations. And when we live in an abundant mindset, our emotions raise themselves, and we feel happy, or we feel more joy, or we experience something more fully. And you can step back from that whole experience and go, wow, that was really a wholesome thing. That was something that really made me feel whole as a person. And I think that's one of the things that we have to, identify on an emotional level when it comes to abundance. Is a lot of time our sadness or our anxiety is coming from a lack or too many choices, and it could go either way. But when we try to recognize that we can create abundance out of the joy and the happy feelings, and take these sad feelings and fill them in with things that make us happy, we can live more abundantly. But it's the small things. It doesn't have to be a big thing. One of the things too is, how do you create abundance for your employees, right? A lot of business owners always say that they don't have enough money to pay certain people. If they wish they could do more for them from a salary perspective or from a bonus perspective. But one of the things that I always talk about with our clients around helping employees to experience more abundance is the little things, right? Give them a $5 or $10 gift card to Amazon or Dunkin' Donuts or Starbucks. It's those little things that create this appreciation, because abundance really comes from appreciating each other. And when you appreciate and you put more good energy towards that, you create this whole other world of abundance. I mean, what do you think about that? Like, do you think that's a good idea? Do you think it's something that we should encourage? Or is there other ways we should talk about abundance with people?
Yeah, I mean, with staff specifically, right? So
Yeah.
we all, staff or personal life or anything, you have three resources. You have money, time, and energy, right? So in that situation, when I was a kid, we had no more money, right? So, but we had time and we had energy, right? Same
Right.
with my daughter and I. We had money and we had energy, but we had no time, right? So with your employees, if you're in a situation where you literally don't have a lot of money coming in, and maybe you can't even buy the $5 gift card, well, can you spend either of the other two resources? Because you have those in abundance now. Maybe because you're not making a lot of money and clients aren't taking a lot of time of yours, you have extra time. So even like I said, if you don't have the money, why can't you just spend a little time with your employees, right? And just literally going to an employee and asking them how their day is genuinely, or how was your weekend, not just to fill time, but to genuinely ask and sit there and listen. Or, hey, how can I help you? What are you looking for in your career? Is there anything we could do at this company to make your experience better? And listening to them, just giving them that time could be super valuable. And that can lead to abundance. Okay, that's the point, is we have to, and this is where most, like you said earlier, most of the lack mindset comes from financial.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and we think this is all we have, but it bleeds over into time and energy as well. There's so many people that are doing well financially and they say, I have no time. You do. You have time. It's, you think it's limited. And yeah, we all have the same 24 hours in a day, but the way you're spending that time could be more appropriately allocated to have more, just like I'm doing with my daughter on Fridays. You have all this stuff, right? You have it. And what you have to do is spend it. You have to spend the energy, right? You have to spend the time. You have to spend the money. And this is what we're talking about with abundance mindset, is there is more out there. If you use your energy, go to bed, you'll get more tomorrow. If you use your time, don't worry, there's others in the next week to do these things. The worst thing is when you are on your deathbed and you ran out of time and then you live in regret, right?
Yeah.
We don't want you to be in a regret mindset. We don't want you to live that way of like, I wish I would have, I wish I could have. Well, you can. You really can. And it's just reframing this, that there's enough out there. We don't want you to spend money and go broke expecting the world to come back. That's not appropriate. But
Mm-hmm.
if you really think like, okay, there's more out there in this world for me, for my clients, for my family, for my staff, there is. There's so much that you couldn't. I mean, look at Elon Musk. The guy has made how much money and he still has time to invent another company and do another thing. Look at Jeff Bezos. Look at all these people. How are they using their personal time? I don't know. But it doesn't just, they're not so much more brilliant than you. Yeah, they have some other skill sets and things, but there are plenty of really dumb people that don't have the skill sets that are getting more freedom in their time, getting more money than you. It's because the way they think. It's just that there's more. There's more out there for all of us. And there's enough for me and there's enough for you. So you have to really believe that. And Tom and I talk all the time about believe, behave, become. So you have to believe that there is abundance in all these things, but then you have to behave like that. If that's going in the sandlot across the street, if that's going to Cracker Barrel, if that's going, on Fun Fridays, you have to behave this way, and
Right.
then you'll become abundant.
And it really is a way, and that's what I really love what you just said there. There is a way to behave abundantly. There is, and that's what from a practical standpoint, there's so many different ways to do this. I mean, I did a post earlier today about, abundant mindset, and it's really, it's simple. It's be grateful for what you have. Focus on the things that you have. It's surround yourself with people who are positive and give you good energy so that you can continue to use your resources of time, energy and money effectively and impactfully so that you can live abundantly. It's keeping that growth mindset. It's being generous. It's random acts of kindness, right? Like I love watching all these TikTok guys out there that are going up to random people asking for money, but in return giving some of themselves and giving somebody else money just for being kind and showing some kindness. And I think the more abundantly we behave through our generosity, through our kindness, and Adam and I talk about this all the time. You can give a lot of stuff away for free. You don't always have to sell someone on something. You don't always have to charge them for your information. Do more things freely. Give of yourself more freely. Be generous, and abundance is going to follow you. Think of people in your world that you see as so happy and they're so abundant and they have time and money and resources. They have all those three things. Why do they have that? Sit back and really ask, why do they have all that? And I guarantee you will find someone who is extremely generous, someone who is very kind, and who really just sees this as a way to live their lives fully. And, focus on being present. I think that's something else that I've realized is that the more present I am, the more abundantly I live, the less anxious I am, the more fun I have being present in this moment. And I see that time as full presence as being completely abundant. Is there anything you want to add, Adam? I think this is a great place.
Well, you were talking about those people, be observant of those other people that have abundance, right? And one of the things I would recommend is listen, literally listen to them. Don't just hear, don't just watch. Listen to the words that they use. Listen to the way that they speak. They're not talking in anything that's negative. They're not talking in things that are limited. They're very positive about everything that's happening. And that's one of the things that you talk about to me is I'm always so optimistic about things because I realize there's more and there's the ability for all this. And if anyone who's successful, you don't hear them talking about the past that much. They're talking about the future, right? They're talking about all those positive things that are going on in their life. They are grateful. They are generous with all their resources that they have. So it's the words that they use and especially when they're by themselves. Now you wouldn't be able to be there when they're by themselves, but listen to yourself when you're by yourself. Listen to yourself when you're by yourself, but listen to the words that you're saying. Words matter. And the way that you speak to yourself is how you're going to behave in life. And if you're talking to yourself in a lack mindset, in there's not enough, woe is me, oh my gosh, I can't, I shouldn't, I won't, then that's what's going to take place, right? You're subconsciously telling your brain what to do. And if you start talking positively, and I'm not talking about speaking affirmations in the mirror and hoping things magically manifest for yourself. This is not, a kumbaya type thing. This is just be careful of the words that you use because that will start to train your brain on how to behave. And don't make it up. Be real about it. And that's why Tom talks about gratitude. That's why we've written a book, The Morning Meeting. And the first thing you do in there is do your gratitude every day. And you have to be grateful for, hey, at least I got my bike and there's a sandlot across the street. You have to be grateful for that. But then you have to use the resources. So I would say on what you were, I really like all the different areas that you said to focus on. But I think if we just heard the words that we said, maybe record a conversation of yourself and listen back to it. Record a Zoom meeting that you're on next time and listen back to it. Are you in abundance language or are you in lack language? Ask somebody, have a conversation with them and hey, when I said that to you, do you think I was coming from a point of like lacking and I don't have and I can't have, or abundance, like this is all wonderful and I can work it all out? That language matters so much.
Yeah. I think that's a huge point, right? You got to get the feedback from people and hear what people who you look up to it or you look to that are positive and speak abundantly. When you speak with them, say, did I sound this way? Do I sound like I'm not here? Do I sound like I'm talking too negatively? And I think you bring up a really good point about the past. People who talk incessantly about the past are not people that are living in an abundance. They're not living. They're just still searching for something. And when you're present and you're speaking about the goals of the future and the priorities of the future, and you're putting excitement behind everything for the future, there is a complete abundance that I think that you find. And I think that is a huge point, because people, if you're in a world right now, and relationships change over time. And some relationships are no longer good for us because they no longer serve us. And you have to look at the friends that you're hanging out with, the colleagues that you're with, or the family members that you're with. And this is what becomes a really big place of conflict for a lot of people, is that they don't see the people that they've surrounded themselves as being abundant. They're like, all these people do is complain, or they always are looking for something else when they have all of this right in front of them, and they're not taking advantage of the opportunities that are in front of them. And I think that's the most important thing, that you have to change who you hang out with and who you surround yourself with if you're really going to live abundantly. Because if there are people around you that aren't in that same place, you're never going to get there. And that is, you don't want to be eluded by that bad opportunity that is in front of you. You got to seize it and be like, you know what? No, I need to surround myself with better people. I need to go find those people and seek those people out. And once you make that disconnect from that current relationship that's no longer good for you, those doors swing wide open and more will pour in. And because now you've created that space for someone who is like-minded to enter your world. I mean, I just think about how Adam and I got together, 4 years ago, and started this business 2.5 years ago. I mean, I let go of a lot of relationships and I was surrounded with all these negative people. And Adam and I met, and it was like my world completely opened to different people who are like me, who think like me and act like me. And I think that has been the biggest and most influential part of my journey from a lack to an abundant mindset, is just the experiences I've had.
But so look at that scenario, right? And you can apply this to yourself, because we're talking about who you spend your time with and what you're doing. And you made an investment, right? You didn't spend money, you spent time. You're like, hey, I'm going to spend time with this person and get to know them a little bit better.
Right.
You spent energy telling me all about your life and your practice and what you were doing. And if you're listening to this, you can invest in yourself by doing things like this. And if you don't have the money right now, you can invest the time. And if you don't have a lot of time, you can invest an abundance of energy in a short amount of time. And if you can't make it out to going meeting people, you're investing right now listening to this podcast. You can read a book. You can scroll through, inspirational things on any social media channel. That's all centering yourself around abundance and positivity. You can hire coaches like Tom and I. We have great communities that we have people that are all together that are super positive. Even when there's negativity, the rest of the community is there to lift them up. But that's what it's all about, is you have to invest in yourself first so you can do this with everybody else. And there's plenty of ways that you can right now do that, regardless of how wealthy or broke you are, how much time you have or you don't. There's more of it out there for you if you consistently invest in yourself and others.
Well, man, that was awesome. I think that's a great place to stop. Listen, and wrapping it up, you got to believe in abundance. You got to behave like it, and then you're gonna become it, and you're gonna embrace that mindset. So I hope that you enjoyed this episode, and I'm really glad that if you listened. If you have any questions, don't ever hesitate to reach out to us. You can find us at atomicbusinesscoaching.com. And we really hope that this episode was something that you needed to hear and really helps you to think more abundantly. So thanks for listening.